There are many examples of sex and the sensual body in art. However, it wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century, which is the beginning of modern art, that our artists began to blatantly show nudity, along with other risque topics such as prostitution, in a brutally honest way. This painting by Pablo Picasso depicts Parisian prostitutes who pose their wares to the observer. Note the stark contrasts in color, line, shape, and a host of other visual literacy issues that make one work beautiful and the other work, well, what do you think? Remaining on the topic of sex, this installation is by a famous British artist named Tracey Emin. It is her bed and surroundings taken straight out of her bedroom, dirty sheets, empty booze bottles and all. The work is about a breakup that had her depressed and in bed for days. The bed represents both the sexual relationship she had with her boyfriend, as well as the depression she felt and her loneliness. Another artist who deals with issues such as sex and reproduction is a Mexican artist named Frida Kahlo. Frida faced many tragedies in her life. After childhood, she had polio, which left her partly lame in one leg, and then she was involved in a streetcar accident as a teenager. Her injuries were extensive, including broken pelvis and crushed abdomen. This injury to her abdomen caused her to miscarry many times in the future. Frida completed this painting after a miscarriage she had in New York. By looking at this image, you can understand the pain and the sadness that she feels. We're going to have a quick look at the body in violence. This theme of body and violence is age-old, especially prevalent in religious iconography, such as the crucifixion of Christ. This German rendition from the early 16th century is particularly macabre and gruesome, but certainly gets the point across of pain and suffering. You'll notice the injury to the skin, the thorn sticking through the flesh, the blood, and note by the shape of the fingers that there's that real sense of agony and pain. This work by Munch is one of the most recognized paintings in Western art. The narrative in the view I'm going to show is a reading of Munch's own words regarding the inspiration for this work.
I was walking along a path with two friends. The sun was setting. Suddenly the sky turned blood red. I paused, feeling exhausted, and I leaned on the fence. There was blood and tongues of fire above the blue-black fjord and the city. My friends walked on, and I stood there trembling with anxiety. And I sensed an infinite scream passing through nature.
So I ask you, what is screaming in this picture according to Munch? Is it the figure, or is it nature itself? Other artists that have dealt with violence are this American artist Barbara Kruger. She suggests imagery by juxtaposing her pictures with words. This work is actually about women's right to choose to have an abortion. Kruger is a sort of very staunch feminist, and she fights for the rights of women. And her image was used in a pro-choice poster that was used at a 1989 rally, walking up to Washington to demand that all women have the right to abortions. Shirin Neshat is a artist that deals with the role of women in Iran, and she often combines poems written onto photography and images of herself to express the ideas that she has about being a Muslim woman. In this work, she's dressed in a black chador, and she has a rifle up to her face, with a poem written on her face that was written by an Iranian female poet. And this verse expresses how many women have deep faith in Islam. So there's this very interesting juxtaposition of female poetry and then this violent vertical line that is a gun. And questions arise: what exactly was Neshat trying to say in this particular work? Why the gun? What is that about? To finish off the body and violence, I just want you to look at this. It's called Nkosi. It's from Africa, and another word that the Western world calls these, they call them fetishes. And this body, often seen initially, causes a bit of angst and seems disturbing because it is a body with nails and other metal pieces hammered into it. And often Western people think that this is a sign of violence, while in fact this sculpture is used as a way to solidify contracts. What happens is magical substances such as white clay are put within the body of the sculpture, and then when two people agree to something such as the selling of animals, marriage, perhaps selling of land, there is a ritualistic hammering of metal into this particular statue, which consolidates this contract and forms a binding contract that both people must uphold. Quickly, we're going to look at the commercial body. It is something that's been dealt with many artists and has really developed in our contemporary world. The commercialism really became quite a topic during the pop era, and this work by Richard Hamilton is a collage of cuttings out of magazines showing all sorts of commercial items, including the commercial body. You know, what is it that we want our bodies to look like? And anyone who's looked through Cosmopolitans or any of the fashion magazines knows that there's an aesthetic body that we are being sold and we are being told that we need to have. And Richard Hamilton is playing with not only this but the idea of what products we should have in our homes. Obviously from the 1960s, because if it was a current work, it would have, I suppose, some iPads and Wii game consoles and other things in it. Along the whole line of commercialism, Dwayne Hanson creates sculptures. Yes, believe it or not, this is not a real woman, it is a sculpture. And he plays with ideas of contemporary society and how we look and what we do. And so this woman is showing a side of American society that Hanson is trying to comment on. He doesn't put any text to tell you what to think, but when you're in a very sort of pristine, stoic art gallery and you turn a corner and you abruptly confronted with this sculpture, what would you think? Have a look at the carts, have a look at the women. What do you think Hanson might be saying about American commercialism and consumption? And finally, we can look at the billboard body. People are actually using their bodies to sell products. Whenever we look at a commercial that's selling makeup or fragrance, we often see a famous actor associated with that product, and they are selling that product to us, but you can actually put art onto your body to sell something. And these are just two examples here. Starting with next week, I'm going to ask you to have a look at these three images and relate it to what we've talked about in this week's lesson. So finishing off, just have a look at it, think about it a bit, and we will begin next week with some questions that you can ponder and reflect in your journal. Have a great week.